Okay, we're here to talk about the next release for Country Red Fruit. This is our 11th release. This is the September release of 2021. We have 6 amazing wines, including one that is a direct import that we brought in just for Country Red Fruit subscribers. And I'm so excited to share these wines with you. You'll see a few different changes this release. We have issued our old school boxes that were really beautiful, but they've just become unsustainable to keep using them. And we've kind of gone to a cheaper and more eco-friendly option, which allows us to pour some more baller wines for you and have things that we just really believe in. We can actually free up some of that margin to focus more on the wine that goes into the box. The first one that I really have been looking forward to talking about the most is this Mein Klang Prosa. And this is a rosé Petnat, and it's from Austria, from Burgenland. Burgenland is closer to the border with Hungary. It's right on the lake of Neusiedlersee, which is a very long, shallow, flat lake that is kind of goes through the flatlands of eastern Austria. And these guys own a 2,000 hectare farm, and it's called Mein Klang. It's biodynamic for everything they do, very sustainable, really awesome. And so they make a host of different wines. This is their kind of bright, bubbly rosé. When I smell this wine, it's kind of got that fresh cotton candy thing. It's raspberries, it's cranberries, it's floral, and just kind of begs you to take a sip. This wine is not bone dry. We would call this like bordering off dry, where there's just a touch of sweetness on the palate, just a little bit to carry the acidity and the brightness of the wine so that it doesn't feel too shrill or too dry. It's just a really yummy sip and something that is kind of a snack wine. So if you have potato chips or sriracha lime chili popcorn, anything crunchy, anything soft, anything that has a really textural component, this would be killer with soups. So have fun with that one. I think it's delicious. The next one I want to talk about is an Assyrtiko, and I'm giving myself a little rinse here. Assyrtiko is one of the most important grapes from the country of Greece. And most Assyrtiko that we know, or that gets talked about in a lot of food and wine and sommelier circles, comes from Santorini, that vacation destination. And this is unique in that it's actually not a Santorini Assyrtiko. This is from Attica, which is kind of Attica, Athens. It is the region around Athens. That's why it's called Attica or Attiki. And it's from the Milanos family. They are making really cool wines with tons of texture and brightness. And how this differs from a Santorini Assyrtiko is that it is less smoky, a little less fiery, a little less intense, but it's really just delicious and approachable and doesn't have that volcanic kind of sulfurous smoke quality that you sometimes get with volcanic grown Assyrtiko. What this does have that is similar to other Assyrtikos is that really salty quality. This is still grown near the ocean, even though it's not in the middle of an island, but it reminds you of standing on the ocean shore. It's got salt. It's got this sort of Meyer lemon or salted lemon peel quality to it. Also find yellow apple here and really nice white floral notes. Because of that saline quality and because of how fresh it is, this is pretty much a perfect seafood wine. This is the type of thing that if you add a whole grilled fish, grilled over charcoal with a little bit of that smoke infusing into the fish itself and squeezing some fresh lemon over it, this would be a perfect pairing for that. Also pair this with oysters or prawns or fresh vegetables or any kind of salad because the acidity here is actually pretty elevated. It's tart, and that's what makes this wine so good for food pairing. So next I want to get into our direct import wine. And this is Emmanuel Fallot, Côte Bruy Les Cailloux. This is a 2018 vintage of this wine, and this is from Beaujolais. Actually, the maps on the wall behind me are maps from Beaujolais. I'm not going to pan up, but the point is that we love Beaujolais here, and it's something that we chose to wallpaper one side of our entire warehouse in. This wine is important to us, and this is the first wine that we partnered with our guys from Venea, who are actually in our same office park. We asked them if they'd bring in enough wine to cover our release of this particular bottling. So everyone who's a Country Red Fruit subscriber, even the 3-bottle people, are also getting this wine because I wanted to share it with you. It's so good. When we talk about Beaujolais, we're talking about Gamay Noir. pretty much 100% all the time Gamay Noir, or what the French would call Gamay Noir au jus blanc, which means red grape with white juice or red Gamay with white juice. Why do I love Gamay? Gamay has what we would call crunchy red fruit in it. It is something that you smell and you get that tart cherry, that cranberry, raspberry, all the things that would fall under the quality of crunchy red fruit. You get in one glass, and it's so scrumptious and just begs you to take a sip. It's got all that floral quality. This is light-bodied, but not lacking texture at all. It is very textural and bright and has great acidity and lift. I love this wine for late summer. I love it for fall, all the way through the year, really. But right now is kind of the time where I want to start drinking more Beaujolais, because the weather started to cool off just a little bit. Starting to roast chickens in the oven, starting to move your cooking from the grill back into the oven. And there's something about Beaujolais that just really loves poultry cooked in an oven. So turkey is perfect with it. Chicken is perfect with it. You can do all manner of different things. Duck is great too. But I really think this wine's tremendous. It was tremendous enough for us to want to import it directly and share it with you. So I really hope you enjoy this wine. Again, just a killer food wine. And this is one of those reds you can pair with almost anything. Even if you have fish, the type of red wine that goes with fish is a wine like Beaujolais. So I hope you enjoy it. So this wine is a 2019 Dewey's Poor Ranch Carignan, coming from Mendocino County in California. Poor Ranch is the name of the vineyard. It's actually a vineyard owned and operated by the Poor family, spelled just like it sounds. They have been in the area since the 1800s. So this is a place that has had grapes planted and other crops planted since the 1880s. And that's what's so cool about some of these old vineyards in California, is that they have a tremendously long history. I think this wine just struck me, not only because the label is really cool and pretty, but because it tells a story about old California, that a lot of these vineyards were planted by German and Italian and Irish and immigrants from all over the world, and they're still around today. Some of these vines are 60, 70, 80 years old or more. This wine is kind of in the same category aromatically as the Beaujolais, where it's a lot of red fruit, it's very lifted, it's very floral, but this one has a little more attack on the palate, and you'll get that when you take a sip of Carignan. Carignan, to me, has a distinct coarseness to it. It's rustic, it's kind of round, it's kind of chunky, has palate texture. So this is a red wine that, even though it's a little bit lighter colored and lighter bodied, you could actually do this with some red meat, or less chicken and more thinking about pork or roast pork or lamb even. Could work really nicely with this. I'm a huge fan of this. Again, the label is going to be the first thing you see when you open the box if you're a 6-bottle member, and I just think it's so cool. So this next wine is the 2017 Fortercole, coming from Tenuta San Giacomo e Filippi. And this is from the Marche, or Le Marche, as they would call it in Italy. And this is on the Adriatic coast of Italy, so on the other side of the Italian peninsula from Rome, and facing the Adriatic coast, or about 150 miles south of Venice here. And this wine just struck me right away because it just spoke of Italy, even though it wasn't coming from necessarily a classic named region that we're used to tasting Sangiovese or Montepulciano from. When we taste Barolo and the Nebbiolos that come from that region, or we taste Sangiovese from Tuscany, we expect a certain flavor profile. But those wines, both in their own way, really speak of Italy and speak of a wine that you want to have with food and have that sort of savory herb quality to it. This wine did that same thing, but it's a little bit more of an atypical blend. This is Montepulciano and Sangiovese. And the reason I like Montepulciano and Sangiovese is because they function almost like a musical duet, where you have the Montepulciano providing the bass and the weight and the richness and the velvetyness on the low end, and then the Sangiovese is light, bright, treble clef, staccato. It's very jumpy and a little more angular. So you have this soft, rich bass note coming from the Montepulciano and the lighter notes coming from the Sangiovese, and they make a really nice match. That's why this wine, when you first smell it, it's got quite ripe fruit notes, some fig and some raisin even, and some black plum coming from that Montepulciano, and then the Sangiovese is providing that tart cherry, and cranberry note that is very typical for Sangiovese. But beyond that, you have fennel, you have marjoram, lots of hard spice like cinnamon and a little vanilla, and you have this wonderful sort of like forest floor quality and truffle that comes on the back end of this. For food pairing, really don't overthink this one. Pasta with red sauce, really nice pizza, homemade. Thinking about maybe doing one with squash blossoms or prosciutto and arugula, kind of perfect pairing for this. You could also do this with a steak. This has enough texture and weight to handle red meat and have something a little bit fuller bodied with it. And this is the wine that we were able to do because we changed boxes. This is Piedrasassi 2018 Bien Nacido Vineyard Syrah. This is a single vineyard Syrah coming from Central Coast, California, a little ways north of Santa Barbara, from the Bien Nacido Vineyard in the region called Santa Maria Valley. There were 486 cases made of this wine. That is a minuscule production. That's several barrels, maybe like 10, 15 barrels. When you think about what it means to make 400 cases of one wine, that is a tiny production. You know, a lot of wines we have in our club might be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 cases, and that's still considered in the scale of most wineries. 3,000 or 4,000 cases of production for a single wine is small. 486 cases is minuscule. So 26 of those cases are coming straight to Country Red Fruit. So we've taken a percentage of their whole production just for the club. And this is one of those wines that I kind of didn't care how much it cost when we first tasted it, because I was so struck by its aromatic power and its finesse and the perfume that's in this Syrah that I had to share it with you. When you taste the true forms of Syrah, the OG Syrahs from the Northern Rhone Valley in France, they're very reminiscent of this, or this is very reminiscent of them. It's black pepper, it's smoke, it's bacon fat, and there's this brooding, intense power underneath it all. Fruit is like the last thing that comes to your mind when you're smelling this wine. Although, yes, it's there. It's kind of black plum and black currant and touch of dried fig. That's there, but overriding all the fruit is continual pepper, savory smoke note that is so typical for Syrah. And they do a lot of stems here where they take a grape bunch and they can't keep everything all together as it's crushed. And so the green grape stems, or the wooden lignified grape stems in the center of that grape bunch, don't get tossed out. They'll keep as many as 40% of all the stems in this cuvee. And that's contributing some of that sort of funky green note and that black and green olive and green peppercorn notes that when you pair those with all the other flavors that are coming from Syrah, it's really awesome. This is a striking wine. It is very complex, has a very long finish, and an immense amount of texture. We can get a little more of it, so if you end up loving this one, we can get more for you. But it's not going to be a lot because the production is so small. I really hope you enjoy these 6 wines in our fall release. Check them out. If you have any questions, email us at circle@countryredfruit.com. And thank you so much for being a member and for trying out these wines. Cheers.